Yo, what's good, everybody? The date is February the 21st, 2024. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you, God, for another opportunity of prayer. We thank you, God, for giving us the gift of life on this particular day, oh God. We ask you, God, that you bless this broadcast as well as the viewers. Oh God, I say a special prayer on behalf of children that are suffering from being trafficked and hardship. We ask you, God, that you would really comfort and keep them during these particular times. I also ask you, God, that you will bless tonight's guest as well as her family and everything she touches to do, that she will prosper. We ask all these things in the mighty name of Jesus. We pray. Amen. What's good, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. Y'all let me know what platform y'all watching on, whether it's Facebook or the YouTube channel. As you guys come on in the room, as usual, I want to start off by doing some Born Day shout outs. Let me get these comments pulled up so I can see you guys in the comments. And feel free to put any questions or comments in the comment section and be a part of the show and interact with us. But with that being said, I want to say happy born day to Anissa Love, my cousin Jason McArthur, John Jay Steele, Letitia Robinson, Lanice Bryant, Demadre Books. Rest in peace, Ray Ray. I miss my homie. Danielle Morris, Chuck Brown, First Lady Pastor Dana Blue, Brenda Smith, Arthur Chapman, Taj Hobbs, Christine Hatcher, Tasha Williams, Patrice Pleasant, Cookie. Happy born day, y'all. Born day twins. Jacqueline Watson, Karen Wilson, Fabian Thorne, my man Rob 40, Tanya McNair, and last but certainly not least, again, I want to wish another happy born day to a beautiful co-host on this evening who celebrated earlier this month, Miss Cookies. Happy born day to all you guys.
Thank you. Thank
Um,
you.
Congratulations to everybody that hit these different milestones, whether it be work related, whether it be anniversaries, whatever it is that you accomplished on this week or milestones. I want to say congratulations. And with that being said, we're gonna get into the show. I don't want to waste no time because our conversations is never no telling where they gonna wind up or how they gonna go. We just have a free flow when we got Miss Cookies on. But I want to welcome everybody to the night show and welcome my special guest. She's a TikTok influencer. Um, as I spelled it out on the pre-show announcement, is MZCOOKEEZ2. That's Miss Cookies to you. Syndicated host and beautiful young lady that I've got the chance to encounter and meet through TikTok, and all nothing but love since then. So she does a show on Tuesday nights, Grown Folks Boulevard, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, 12 from 8 p.m. Eastern to 12 midnight. Every Tuesday night, good music, good vibes. So I would encourage you to get on TikTok and follow her on there as well. But with that being said, welcome to the Marvin Bennett Jr. Show again, Miss Cookies. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure coming on your platform, having great in-depth conversations. So I'm
Mhm.
glad to be here again. Thank you for having me, for inviting me.
No doubt, always. And that's one reason I like to talk to you too, because we can have those good conversations. But before we actually get into the topic tonight, hey, what's good, Mike? Before we actually get into the topics of the night, I wanted to start kind of light because I usually have certain kind of questions that I like to do, like James Tipton on Actors Inside the Actors Studio. So we're gonna start out light before we get into it. That way I don't forget to come back to it. But as far as Miss Cookies, what's your favorite word?
My favorite word,
Yeah.
hmm, my favorite word. I think my favorite word would be resilience.
Okay. I like that. What would be your least favorite word?
My least favorite word would be hate.
Okay. Five dinner guests, alive or gone. You can have five dinner guests of your choosing. Who would it be?
5 dinner guests. That's a good one. 5 dinner guests. From just period, right? I
Yeah.
don't um I would probably want to have my great grandfather who I've never met, but I wanted to know so much about him.
Okay.
Um it would probably be Whitney Houston, um, because I just think she's one of one. Um, Marcus Garvey because of his his viewing on activists and how he seen us with empowerment and being self-reliant. That's three. Four would be hmm, Tupac.
Okay.
And number five would be um, Dorothy Dandridge.
Hmm. That yeah, that's not shocking, but that's a different name. And I love Dorothy Dandridge. I remember as a teenager watching Carmen for the first time
Hmm.
and just being enamored. For some reason, I've always liked to get into movies and the history of movies. So I would watch black and white. Watch some of the movies that I can't watch with the fellas. They like, man, what you watching this for? But it was just so cool because I thought Harry Belafonte was like just so ahead of his time and like, yo, that's somebody that I would want to be like. Like,
He was the Denzel before there was a
yes,
Denzel. It was Harry
yes.
Belafonte.
And it
Yes.
had a beautiful voice, could sing,
Hmm.
charismatic,
Hmm.
easy on the eyes. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I'm secure in my manhood, but he was definitely a handsome man,
Yeah.
and as well as again what we're going to get into later on tonight, he was a profound activist, but not just for Black Americans, for humanity. He was
Hmm.
going over to Africa. He was going over to Haiti. He was going to do all these different mission works when he didn't have to get himself involved. Period. So I always respected him about that. For one thing, it's one thing to be a part of a movement or a part of making something happen to me personally, especially when you don't have to. Years ago, Jay-Z had a line after Katrina, and it's something to the line. I don't want to misquote it, so I'm gonna just paraphrase it, but it's not exact. But he was pretty much saying, even if I gave $10 million, right, and I didn't
Hmm.
give my time, did I really give anything at all? And I think that that's very profound because if you got $100 million in the bank, what's the big deal that you gave 10 million? I was looking at everybody been talking about Taylor Swift. Oh yeah, the lady that lost her life, she gave 100,000. Well, Taylor Swift is a billionaire, so like, is it just PR or like it's not a big deal for her to
Right.
give somebody $100,000 like that's. And I'm not pocket watching nothing like that there, but while you said that, I just thought about that. All right, last question. If God is real and heaven really does exist, what would be the first thing that you would want God to say when you walked into the pearly gates?
Many have done well, but you I adore. Welcome.
I like that. I like that. All right, well there you have it. So now we're gonna get into it. I believe that is today is 59 years to the day that Malcolm was assassinated. Before we even came on screen, I was telling Miss Cookies how important words are, and I'm always particular about using correct words to that point. I believe that Malcolm X was assassinated. Um, he wasn't just murdered. He wasn't just killed. He was assassinated. Um, people always talk about they was killed or nah. Some people just die. I think that is important to use the right words, especially when we're talking about the loss of life. Um, and he was taken from us, and everybody already know how I feel about Muhammad Ali, who's behind me on my wall, one of my heroes. But Malcolm is right up there with him as far as me because of his boldness. Growing up in church and growing up in ministry, for me, is one thing to be a preacher. It's one thing to be a student. There's another thing to be a servant. It baffles me how you see these different pastors. Um, and it tells a lot about the character of the man when you see these people outside of the pulpit, or you know what I mean. I remember the church that I grew up in, and it's not showing favoritism, but it's just an example of the difference. I remember seeing my pastor, the late Bishop James H. Everett, after services, like literally straightening up chairs, picking up envelopes, picking up tissue. Like he wasn't, hey, you go over there and pick that up, or you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Especially in these day and age, you see pastors, they got what I call the A team. They got all these different assistants and delegates. You don't have to carry your own Bible no more. You don't have to do this here. You got somebody for everything. And I think that is very important when you say, as the leader, even though you have that accessibility to have that in your life, no,
Mm-hmm.
I could carry my own Bible.
Yeah.
I'm not handicapped. You know what I mean? Little things like that mean something to me. It don't have to mean anything, but I pay attention to little things like that. And the reason that I say a boldness when they talk about Malcolm X is because it's just like in Christianity. If you're not willing to lay down your life, if you call yourself a true Christian, if you're not willing to lay down your life for the cause like Jesus Christ did, then what are you doing it for? If it's just about preaching good words and studying all that there, but you're not willing to actually put that faith into action, what is the point? And I believe that's why Malcolm X is so where he is to me. And y'all excuse me too. I forgot to put on my civil rights jacket. I've been going with the civil rights theme all month. I just forgot to put my jacket on because we started talking early. But he literally was willing to lay down his life for the cause, for black people that he knew, black people that he never met. And I think that was just a beautiful thing. I was sharing with Miss Cookies earlier, 2 days before he was assassinated. His home was bombed with his wife and 5 little girls in there, right? His house was bombed, destroyed, furniture out on the street, burnt up. Can't even really tell whether it was a dresser, whether it was a couch, or whatever have you be. That very next night, he's in Detroit, Michigan, speaking on task. The very next night after his house is being bombed. That's somebody that's dedicated to the cause to me. And that's the type of people that I would want to follow. I would want people to say, well, you know what? That dude, he really believed in what he did. I was having this conversation earlier, when it comes to love. I was watching an interview and people were talking about love. And, you hear some people, well, my dad never told me he loved me, or my mom never said it, or, I never got a hug, or I never got a kiss, and like that there. And I understand that some people need that in their life. I'm not taking anything away from that. But I'm a believer, I'm a firm believer, and I say I take it to the grave that I can show you better than I can tell you,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I could tell you I love you all I want to, but if my actions don't show that to you, then what does the meaning of the words have? What the meaning does the word have behind them? You know what I mean? If I say I don't rock with you, I can show you better than I can tell you that I don't
Mm-hmm.
rock with you. It don't make no sense for me to tell you that. My actions are going to show you, hey, he not vibing with me. Let me leave this cat alone. So I believe that it needs to be reciprocated. What are your thoughts on Malcolm?
Um, for me personally, I want to not take away, but take the views or the camera off of um, the hype that was
Mm-hmm.
reported, the way that the media made him out to be. Malcolm X strictly was about two things: self-reliance and empowerment for us. And so if you stick to the script, and when I say the script, if you stick to how consistent he was from the very beginning to the end, even through his transition and breakup with the Islam, um, his message still remained the same. Now, were there some improvisions after he went to Mecca and when he came back and started speaking a little
Absolutely.
differently? As because that was a life-changing experience. And we know
Absolutely.
experience can change your perspective when
Mm-hmm.
you've actually been somewhere and seen some things, right? But to say nevertheless that his speech still was all about self-reliance and empowerment. I think that was steadily, and for that, um, I see why and how. And once, and we talked this before, he was willing to lay down his life and to sacrifice himself.
Mhm.
Even though he had a wife and had children, he was still willing to sacrifice and lay down his life. When has someone come up after that? There has not been one who has been willing to sacrifice their life and be that dedicated and committed to the people
Mhm. Yeah.
with not only just speech, but with sure resolutions and solutions, right? So it's one thing to have these type of conversations, and that's fine. Everybody have their opinion, but it's something totally different when you also can bring resolutions and solutions to solve the problems and the issues that we have in our community. And
Mhm.
that was the other part of why I see him as prolific and great, because not only did he have the education, because he said, hey, even when he was incarcerated, you couldn't peer him out of a book. He was in the books. He was reading and studying and showing himself approved, right?
Mhm.
And so because of that, the knowledge that he had, it allowed him to go into spaces, and he can talk that talk because he really was about it and he knew about it.
Mhm.
He knew what he was speaking of. But not only that, but he had solutions. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He had a way to say, this is how we solve this problem. I'm not just giving you my opinion, but
Mhm.
here are some solutions to solve X, A, B, C, and D.
Mhm. I like that.
So I think
I
I
think
think that separate him from the rest.
okay. And I will be remiss to talk about Malcolm without talking about our sister Betty Shabazz. Because I don't believe in that behind every man is a good woman. That sounds good poetically, but for me personally, I want my woman beside me. You know what I mean? I want my
No.
woman. So as a woman, you know what I mean? I would like to hear your opinion or your take on that. There, like once we get married, I mean, I don't mean to word it like that, but you know, as my future wife, imaginary, I'm
Hmm.
I'm in the same position as Malcolm. We got 5 little girls here that we're raising. What do you feel like from your perspective as Miss Cookies? What would your conversation be with me about? Would you try to look, Negro? You got me and 5 little girls to be worried about. I know what you're trying to do, and I applaud it. Like, what would be your take on that from her position, from a
Well,
supporting wife?
let's go back before the five babies were had come.
Mm-hmm,
She has had to be the type of woman that was sent from God to be a
mm-hmm,
part of the purpose and the will. There is no way that he could have stayed married to a woman that wasn't a part of the purpose. There's no way. That's that's far beyond an average love story.
yeah.
To know that I'm walking into this purpose with this partnership, with this marriage, with this man that is a prolific person. She had to know his mindset and the way
Mm-hmm.
he thought before she decided to say I do. So that's why I believe she was handpicked and selected by God to be a part of his purpose and his will. That
Absolutely.
that was an alignment. There's no way that I can see, and I'm gonna say this without, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. An average thinking, average woman
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't have the capabilities to love a man of that such gratis and that mindset, that godlike energy, that godlike um revolutionist,
Mm-hmm.
she has have to been equipped with something that was outside of herself, outside or beyond than just being a woman, because we are emotional beings. And my heart as a woman, as a mother, would always want to be protective of the very things that I love, right? And so no way, shape, form, or fashion would, I don't believe that she allowed the fear that she was experiencing in real time
Mm-hmm.
cloud her judgment on the purpose, because she made a commitment to the purpose before the kids came, before he blew up to be, who he was. She made a commitment. And I'm sure Malcolm was fearful when that happened. I'm sure that rattled and scared him, but that gave him power. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That may have caused her fear and he wanted to protect her, but that gave him power. So because she was already implemented with the purpose, I'm sure there was reassurance of what this is what he signed up. This is what I signed up for. So I don't want to speak in my terms of what I would do because
Mhm.
I would have to be equipped to handle that. But I
Mhm.
think it would be similar to a woman that has a husband who has a high profile job where his life is constantly going to be in jeopardy. And every morning or every night when they go to work, you saying that prayer, God,
Yeah.
continue to cover my husband and keep him safe. I'm sure that that had to be a part of it. So, it takes a special type of partner, woman,
Mhm.
to sign up for that, right? And not
Mhm.
to allow her emotions and her fear overtake the purpose.
And to add on to what you say, 'cause I agree 1,000%. That's why I asked too, because I would like to hear a woman's take on that. I think that was a beautiful answer. But to me, it's also we talked about him willing to lay down his life for what he believed in the cause. I believe, speaking on her behalf, that's such an epitome of love. Like I was just talking about actions too, because that's selfless. You know what I mean? That was selfless of her. She could have easily been selfish, and
Mhm.
said thought about her needs as a woman,
Mhm.
as a wife. But she said, no, baby, you know what it is, and that's it. That's like you to your point. That's whether you are Malcolm X. That's whether you're a preacher. That's whether you're an activist or you're a firefighter.
Mhm.
Any day, anytime you walk out that door, you know that you're potentially laying your life on the line, right? So, like you to your point, I believe that a woman has to, because you got a lot of women that, and this is what they well within their right. But you know what? I'm not about to put myself through that. I'm not even going, you know what I mean? I'm not even going to imagine you not coming home and then I'm stuck here by myself at that gate. No, I'm not even doing that. So to me, again, shout out to Betty Shabazz because, like you said, it had to be ordained by God, Allah, however you want to refer to the higher being, that this woman was the one that was created particularly for him and his mission. And I think that's just a beautiful thing. When it comes to relationships, um, when you see relationships that they're not competing with one another,
Mhm.
they're bigging one another up, they're supporting one another, different things of that nature. There, like if you're a musician and your significant other doesn't like music, you know what I mean? It's kind of hard if you're not willing to say, you know what, I don't really care for music when I'm not with you, but I want to support your dream. Like,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? There's ways I like to see people working together instead of working against one another when it comes to relationship, if that makes sense. And I
Yeah.
think that they were a perfect example of that. Same thing with Coretta Scott King. You know what I mean? I was making a joke last week talking about it, but like you say, to your point, it takes hey, what's good, Toshiba? They help me. Yeah, absolutely. That's the key. I believe that it takes a special woman, not just a woman, but a special woman to be in either one of their shoes, because let's be serious. And I'm not dogging Martin Luther King or talking about the character of the man, any of that nature there. But she's a woman, and she's not a foolish woman. You know that every city that this dude is going to, you got a Sally Mae, you got a Miss Strawberry baking apple pies and making peach cobbler and banana pudding, and oh, I just want to say thank you. And she knew what she was up against. But as a woman, she didn't say, you know what? Nah, I'm going on the road with him because I'm gonna make sure I keep all these other holes in check, so to speak. You know what I mean? You're not gonna be pushing up on my man. That, you know what? He and to the men, big up to them because you had to make your wife feel secure in you doing that. You know what I mean? Because if she's not secure, like prime example, like I said, what you do on Tuesday nights is a beautiful thing, right? If we were in a relationship, there's no way in the world I'm like, well, I'm not gonna be tuning in because these dudes be going crazy in the comments.
Right.
That's like stupid because that's gonna stunt your growth and that's gonna make you feel some kind of way toward me. If you can't handle it, don't sign up for it. But
Yeah.
if you're my significant other as long as you let me know, hey, ain't nobody think about them comments, I'm good. I'll encourage y'all to send them. Keep sending the comments
You
because
know,
my spot is secure. You know what
you
I
know
mean?
what? But you know what, Marvin? It is because I have to say that the purpose has to be bigger than the person.
There you go. There
The
you go.
purpose has to be bigger than you and I. And that's where the alignment come in at. It has to be bigger than you and I. It has to be bigger than her, than him, than them. It has to be far more bigger than anyone or anything
Mm-hmm.
that has some type of footing. Your purpose has to over exceed and
Yeah.
be bigger than anything that can come towards your way. It is because my commitment, our commitment is to the purpose and the will of the Most High. And nothing, absolutely nothing comes before that. And that's
Absolutely.
when you know you have someone that's in alignment, that's equally yoked, because it's bigger than the both of us.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when you have that mindset and when you have that capabilities to connect with something that's bigger and better and higher than both of us together, and we come in agreement in alignment with that, then that's where that the Betty Shabazz come and the Coretta Scott King, they come forth from that,
Mm-hmm.
because it was bigger than her emotions. It was bigger than her wants and her needs and
Yeah.
her desires, which are all, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But it's saying that I'm
Absolutely.
willing to sacrifice my needs, like you said, selflessness.
Mm-hmm.
And because I agree with the purpose, and it's bigger than you and I, it's bigger than our marriage, it's bigger than the love that we have for each other. It's bigger than the family that we created.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I totally wholeheartedly agree, man. In terms of Malcolm, you asked me before we started, and I'm gonna flip the question to you. Malcolm or Martin for you? Which one?
I'm going to say Malcolm, because once again, not only did he speak on empowerment and self-reliance, but he gave resolutions. He gave, um, these are some ways that we actually can fix the problems that we have in our community. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
The only reason why I'm saying that, because I wanted to remain consistent. He was consistent in speaking on self-reliance and empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to have economics, in order to build another Black Wall Street, you need to be self-reliant and empowered. And that goes to open up your own businesses, having our own money, creating our own platform, our own, whatever we need, we have our own. And so that, for that name's sake, I would choose Malcolm, because he remained committed to that. He remained, he practiced a lot of self-discipline and self-control. And for him to walk away from the Nation of Islam, that says a whole lot about what he stood for and
Mm-hmm.
what he didn't stand for.
Yeah.
And so I would say that, for the simple fact that he also brought solutions.
Mm-hmm.
And we wasn't just marching, and which I'm not saying that that was something that was great, but what happened next? Where did the marker move? Um, it, how many years has it been?
59.
59 years. In 59 years, we've made small changes, but are we self-reliant, and have we even stepped into empowerment? Do we have our own Black economics? Hmm.
Uh-huh.
59 years? Hmm.
Yeah.
Are we still consistent and reliant on the people that are in power? Never once have we decided and figured out that self-reliance and empowerment and against integration could possibly help us and help the community in order to rely on ourselves. Like it was proven with the Black Wall Streets in Oklahoma. That was just one of the
Mm-hmm.
places. There was a lot of different Black Wall Streets in the United
Yeah.
States, but that was just one
Absolutely.
of them. And so in Tulsa. So I would like to think that if something worked before, right? Let's just go back to the blueprint of what worked before.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to come up with something new. Just
Yeah.
go back to the blueprint of what worked before and build from there. So I will go with Malcolm.
Okay. And to your point, I like that you went there because I always do it, and I try to make. I know it sounds rhetorical so many times, or repetitive rather, not rhetorical but repetitive. But I stress that people educate themselves on the Black history and all that there, particularly living here in North Carolina. Like I remember when I first moved here, I learned about how in 30 years prior to Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the city of Wilmington, North Carolina, they had their own newspapers, they had their own hospitals, they had their own blacksmith, like everything, own lawyers, own banks. Like we were self-sufficient as a people. The whites in the neighborhoods, in the surrounding neighborhoods, didn't like that because we don't have to spend our money with you. We could keep it in our own community and we could benefit from it. But no, in American society, we want a part of that money. So what did they do? They burnt the whole city down, ran up at people's houses, which is still crazy to me. No matter what year it is, it's hard to believe, especially in the day and age that we live in now, where people literally could walk into your house, snatch your daughter up, throw a rope around her neck, hang her from a tree, and you sit there and do nothing. Like I would like to think that it's going to be 3 dead people hanging from a tree because you're going to have to take me along with them. I'm not just going to sit here out of fear. And it's easy to say that. I know it sounds judgmental. It's easy to say that sitting here now, but I just don't understand it. And to your point, I would love for us to see us do that again. Try to get our own communities back and with that there, because I tell you what, this time around, it won't be so easy for them to come get it from us. The way that we are built now, even though we're less in numbers, I always try to tell people, and I'm not an advocate for guns, so to speak. That's just a personal thing, because I believe that the more, it's not about changing gun laws. I believe that we don't have any guns, we don't have gun violence. I think that's the easiest solution right there. But if you really want them to revisit gun laws, every able-bodied Black person go register to get a concealed weapon, and I guarantee you they will revisit gun laws.
That's exactly what's happening now. Is because Black Americans are getting registered and they see the numbers
Mm-hmm.
and they understand that what they don't want is a revolutionary, another
Absolutely.
revolution with people that are educated in both education and in how to use their firearm to protecting their family.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're seeing. As long as we can march and sing and get on podcasts and yell and talk and scream and do all that, that doesn't move the powers that be. But once these people start arming themselves, not just with knowledge, but also with those arms, with the steel, now we have a revolutionaries. Now we have a making of, they might get tired. And today may be the day that they all wake up and come together collectively to get payback what was due, that was taken, that we did. See, they know who they are. They know who we are. They know what's been done. But as long as I can keep the sleeping giant sleeping and distracted
There
and
you
give you
go.
just a little this or that, so you would feel every time you begin to try to wake up and come up out your sleep, give you another sedative. I give you a little bit more alcohol. I give you a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
sex and a little bit more violence and a little bit more dope and a little bit more of this to keep you sedated, because we don't want the sleeping giant to ever wake up. Because if the sleeping giant, us, if we ever was to wake up collectively, same mission, same one band, one sound, it's a wrap.
Mm-hmm. And that's really, it's like, it reminds me of my one of my favorite lines from all time in all movies. My man Kaiser Sose, what he say? The greatest trick that the devil ever did was convince the world that he didn't exist. If I can convince you that I don't exist, to your point, distraction is key, because I'm proud to be a Black American, right? And because I have Black pride does not mean that I hate my white brothers and sisters either. You know what I mean? Because it's not just about skin color. It's about, but as long as we focus on the differences, Republican versus Democrat, then we never gonna come together and really talk amongst ourselves. And that's where real change comes from. When we all collectively come together, the gays, the straights, the Blacks, the whites, the Chinese American, the African Americans, the American, Black Americans, white Americans, when we all collectively come together and figure out what's best for not us, but again, to, like you talked about earlier, sacrifice. It ain't about me. It's about my great grandchildren. It's about my grandchildren. It's about the future. Do we want to leave the world in a better hands than we received it? You know what I mean? And until we have those real conversations, we gonna keep, like you said, it's gonna be like the what was the thing we used to play on, the merry-go-round. Like,
Yeah, with that being said, Marvin, but in order to have all those things go back in order, you have to give the people back the land that was stolen and taken away. You have to
there
put
you
them
go.
back and put the Black woman back in position. And I'm gonna say indigenous man and woman,
Mhm.
give them back what they already had before you came.
Yeah.
We have to claim rights to who we are, not to who they told us we are. But this world will continue to be in a disrupt, and until we get back on the throne, until we get in back in our rightful place, everything is going to be in chaos. Everything is going to be out of order. Not only are we out of order in the rights in the eyes of God, but in the structure of the order of how mankind is to be built and what it was created and who made and who was there for us. It was us. And because that has been taken away and given to them, that is the discrepancies on economics, right? If you don't have the land, if you're not born into it, you don't have it. You get what I'm saying? So that's why it's easier, or it comes across as easier, and generational wealth can be passed with them, because if it was already given to them, the great grands, and they didn't have to work for it. It was handed, passed down, as it should have been for us. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we have to get back, in order to get back to self-reliance economics, the Black Wall Streets, we have to get the land back that was taken, return back to its rightful owner, return back to its natural state of being who owned the land first. Now we can generate the wealth and the worth, because now we have the land to build the churches and the schools and the providence and those things like that. We have that now in our possession. That right there would change everything. That right there would change everything, because now it's back to its rightful owner.
Yeah.
And the same things that was taken away, if it was given back, and I would say given back, put back into the rightful place of the owner. Because if I expect my slave master to give me a piece of the land, I can understand that that piece of land he may give me may be cursed. So put it back in the hands of the rightful owners. That part with and I'm gonna say this, with adding on top of that
interest.
And that's the money on top of the land.
And God forbid that this ever actually comes to pass. Like, what I would encourage them is to please understand this here, please, and hear me loud, hear me clear. If you did this, you wouldn't be doing us a favor. You would just be doing what is right.
Yeah. That part is not, that's what I say. I didn't want to say give back, because that would mean that they had the natural ownership of the land, because it was taken away. So put the people, the natural owners of the land, give them back, put them back in position to get access to ownership back to what they had ownership of, right? Because it wasn't yours to begin with. So you stole that. So that, yeah.
Toshiba said Martin Luther King was a master at using pressure and discomfort to bring the right people to the table. How do you feel about that?
When we talk about politics and church, before we knew and had conventions, it was Baptist conventions. It was church. Church was the place where you discuss politics, you discuss your woes for the community. Church was the political campaign and the staffing place where a lot of the people that were in politics held their meetings at. That was a safe space for Black people, right?
Absolutely.
So I agree with her. You have to have a sense of presence and a liking. The people have to like you in order to have you to represent, to speak on their behalf. So he was able to move, right, and to bring this person and that person together to have that conversation. So he was a part of that. He was prolific. And I think Martin, once he realized that the rhetoric that he was speaking was, like he said, was bringing his people into a burning house. Once he realized what was going on and his speech began to change, more so towards the way that
Yeah.
Malcolm X was speaking, that's when he was no longer he was disposable then, because now it was starting to change. And that is the reason why I spoke and said Malcolm, because his message, although it was, he improvised some things, it never changed about being self-reliant and empowerment,
There you go.
economics.
I agree with that. And I
Them two together though, oh my, them two together.
and that they couldn't have that. The government would not allow that. That because you winning regardless.
You need both. Really, we do. We would need both. You
Because
need
you
both.
got some people that's gonna rock with Martin, and you got some people that's gonna rock with Malcolm. But either way, we all working together. We're gonna put our differences aside like that. I think that's one of the most beautiful pictures. Now, still, I said I want to get it blown up into a poster, but the picture with them two together.
That was the only
As much
picture
as
they had
talk about
together,
each
right?
other, yeah.
That was the
There's a
only picture that was ever photographed
Yeah,
together.
that's the only one. Exactly. And what's so beautiful about that picture is they both smiling and laughing. I would love to be the flyer on the wall to hear what was the joke, inside joke, or what it is that they were laughing at. But to see both of them on two opposite opposing ends have a moment amongst two men and share a laugh, I think that's a beautiful thing, because like you said, it's not about getting my way. It's not about getting your way. It's about what's best for us as a people. And I think that.
So let me ask you this, Marvin. Would you have them two at your table, your top 5?
Absolutely. Well, I don't know. I don't know if I would have. I don't know if I would have Malcolm. I mean Martin.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind having a conversation with him, but Malcolm definitely. I would have Malcolm, Muhammad Ali. I would definitely want to have Maya Angelou to represent women. I would definitely want a woman at the table. And it depends on the day of the week that you ask me this question. It can always change from time to time.
Right. I get it.
But I would like to have my bishop there too, to have that conversation, to hear a conversation between him, Malcolm, and Martin. just their take on one another. And then I said Maya Angelou, and then we talked about him earlier. You might as well, while we're there, throw Harry Belafonte in there. Okay. I think we going I don't even drink coffee, but we're gonna sit there after the meal is over, because I just want to hear y'all engage in conversation amongst each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Awesome.
But for you, I was watching earlier, and I know that you're from Mississippi. I think I wanted to dive into that a little bit too, because like there's a significant difference between growing up in the North than it is the South. And I don't think unless we actually travel and visit different places that we totally understand it. And what I mean by that is I remember in 1997 moving to Little Rock, Arkansas. And people knowing that I'm originally from New Jersey, people would always be like, wow, what was that like?
Right.
I get that question more than anything else.
Out of all places, Little Rock, Arkansas, from Jersey. That's like California to LA. I mean LA to New York. Like but you in the South though. So
difference. And at the time I didn't know how to describe it until one person, they kind of, when they asked me, they said the word, and I've been running with it ever since. It was definitely a culture shock. Because it was a vast difference. Not that one is better than the other, not that is right or wrong, nothing like that. It's just totally different. And while I was living there, I got growing up in Newark, New Jersey, and particularly in Newark, we learned our history. We learned about the 67 riots. I've been to the Woolworths downtown and Broad in the market. You know what I mean? So you see, it's a different feel, it's a different energy as far as Blackness. Now, you feel safe in this, as crazy as it is, and I know this gonna sound real crazy to people that still live in Newark, because it is a violent city from the outside looking in and from the inside looking out. But for me personally, I felt safe as a Black person in Newark, right? As opposed to some of the surrounding cities in the different counties. You know, you go 15 minutes this way, 15 minutes that way. I know I might get carjacked or I might get a knife pulled on me in Newark, but I feel safer here than I do out here in some of these other places because I might not make it back home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's just the fact of the matter. When I moved to Little Rock, Arkansas, I remember having a conversation with some coworkers one night. And I'm sitting here at a table. I'm from Jersey. My homie, he was a Crip from Los Angeles, California. Another guy, he was from Little Rock. He was a former Blood.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
And then we have a white dude that's older than all of us at the time. And we having this conversation. And I never forget, we started talking about what were some of the wildest things that we've ever seen. And it so reminded me of the scene in Life where they going around the table talking about why they in jail.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, and it was like Martin and Eddie look at each other like, oh, these jokers can't read. So we gonna tell them about that we went on a killing spree. You ain't heard about us? Because
Right.
they in there for something that they really didn't do.
And talk about the boom boom room.
And I never forget, my homie from LA, he said something about the gang life. And he had been shot 9 times, still had 2 bullets in him, rest in peace. He's no longer with us. Didn't die of gang violence, anything like that. He died, passed away of cancer. But he talked about some of the gang's activity. The blood at the table. He talks about some of the gang activity, like going to dig up a body and bringing it back to the house of a rival gang, and they celebrating the party. Like, I'm sitting here like, wow, that's crazy. The white gentleman says, you ain't seen nothing till you seen somebody fed to the pigs. And I've heard about stuff like that in movies and stuff. I didn't know like a real thing. He said no. He said you feed them to the hog because the hog gonna eat everything, including the bones. And I said, yo, I'm sitting here talking about how crazy Newark is. Like, y'all on a whole different level. And to be riding around in Little Rock, Arkansas, I always try to tell people, and people think I'm making this up, but you could literally see it. I don't know if they still have it, but you know how you go and you see, I'm quite sure in Memphis or in different parts of Tennessee, you could be riding down the road and say that this highway is adopted by St. Jude's, and this one here and that one there. I remember seeing a sign saying that this road is adopted by the KKK. That's something that somebody told me, something that I seen with my own eyes, and I was like, where in the hell am I at now? Like, you know what I mean? So I said all that to say, like, just the difference is I remember going to, not even knowing the history of it when I moved there, but hearing about it, but never really caring about it at the same time, especially in your youth. But the Little Rock 9. And I got to go down to Central High, and it was like, because I was still young, I was still immature. So I didn't really get it until it was time for me to leave. And it was like, wow, like Ruby Bridges, like, this is mad crazy that, and it's to this day is a historical landmark, land site. But it was like, wow, people really, they had to call the National Guard in just to let some kids go to school because segregation was that prevalent in the South. Being from Mississippi, and I know that y'all definitely have a rich history as far as inequality and different things, the Edmund Pettus Bridge and what have you. What was it like for you personally, and the different things that you've seen and growing up, learning to live with and adapting, so to speak?
Well, I wasn't raised in Mississippi. I was born and raised in Arkansas, Jonesboro, to be
Okay.
specific. And I was raised in Milwaukee. So I was raised up north. I left We left Arkansas when I was young. So a lot of my growing up, my school age years, I was raised in the North. So my expression, my ideal is different. I went from everybody knows each other, everybody, lives next door to each other, everybody is Southern hospitality. You know who that is. You come from a small town, everybody knows everybody. So I actually felt safe
Mhm.
because this is my small town and we are related just about, and everybody knows everybody. To go to a place in the city, a big city like that where nobody knows anybody, people barely speak, there isn't any Southern hospitality, people barely say hello and hi. One thing about coming to the South is that I don't care how many times you drive past, people are always gonna speak, throw your hands up, and I'm just gonna take you 10 times. Just wave your hand. I get it that you're from the city, but it's just an overall respect. Just saying hello, just greeting people. So I'm the opposite. This was a culture shock for me. Um, that I was around different people, Chinese and Puerto Rican and Hispanic and Mexican, white, German. And I had a cultural shock because I was so used to being around just my people. You get
And
what
this
I'm
is in
saying?
Milwaukee.
This is in Milwaukee. I went
Okay.
from a small town to a city, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Okay.
So it was different. Now coming back home at 18, I think, what did I experience being in the South? I'll never forget my first job was at a steak and shake, and I was
Okay.
a waitress. It was an old white couple. I'll never forget. It was an old white couple that I served. And you know what they tipped me with? A dime. They left a dime on the table. And I was just like, what am I? I walked out. That it was in that moment where I felt like I was back in whatever time frame they were in to be served by this black woman. And you left a dime on the table. I said, this is not, I'm not, this ain't, I don't, this is not, no, sir, I can't. Um,
Now,
so
was this still during the time that you could use a dime to use the payphone, or had they moved up to a quarter?
this was in, let me see, 91, 92,
So
maybe
they had to
92.
move up to like a quarter by then. 20 cent first. 20
It was
cent before
so,
the quarter.
so, but
So you
it
could
was
still
the
make a
point
phone
of
call.
saying that I felt like no matter how nice and how sweet and serving that I was, you get what I'm saying? It
Mhm.
was the energy. It was this is what you're supposed to do. And if I leave you a crumb, that's what you're supposed to take.
Be
And I
happy.
was
Yeah.
just saying, what am I, wait, I'm not here to serve. Like, I'm not a slave. And I don't know, I said, I can't do this. This is not, that was the first time that I've ever experienced racism. You would think by being in Wisconsin that we experienced that. But
Mhm.
for me, in my up for 18 years being raised in Milwaukee, I was cultured around everybody. I went to school with everybody
Wow.
from elementary school to high school. It was all kinds of people. Matter of fact, I went to Milwaukee High School of the Arts, which is Jeffrey Dahmer apartment was up around the corner from my high school. And
Wow.
one of the victims was actually a high school friend of ours.
Hmm.
I went to school with Vietnamese. I went to a school like Fame. If anybody know what Fame
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
that's the school that I went to. We didn't have sports, but you had to go there for, if you can sing, dance, act, theater, and art. So I went to a school that was culturally and also not accepting of the LGBTQ community. So they were accepting. They were accepted in our school. You get
Mhm.
what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I would have a vast variety of different cultures. So it wasn't. I didn't experience racism in the north up north. I experienced it
Wow.
when I came back home.
That's interesting. Because
Hmm.
I would never think that about Milwaukee. And of course it's TV and satire, but when you look at that 70s show and you know that era there is like when they finally brought my man Tim Reed along, it was like, whoa, they got a black dude in Milwaukee. Like, this is crazy. Like,
Yeah,
it's been a great. So I always, that was my perception of it, not knowing that it was so diverse, like you just explained.
yeah.
That's good
So
to know.
my experience of racism was definitely when I moved back down south. Now living in Mississippi, I've been here for 16 years. It's definitely, I would say down here they're more bolder. You see the you see the flags.
Hmm.
You see when they driving their trucks, they definitely are bold and into their, you get it, you see it.
Yeah.
It can't you can't not see it. Um, but I think to be honest with you, I felt safer up north. And the reason why I'm saying that, because if I get pulled over here, I have so much to be cautioned of because of the fact, and I'm in a small town in Mississippi. You get what I'm saying? So the
Yeah.
the deaths and our ancestors and all this, the blood and tears that has happened in Mississippi
Hmm.
constantly does serve as a reminder.
Yeah.
It reminds you, you're a black woman. You know that,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
I don't care how pretty you think you are. I don't care what kind of car you drive. I don't care what
Hmm.
your position, your job is. They let you know
Hmm.
that you're only here because of.
Yeah.
So
And you're 100% right, because like I said, even in the year 2000, I'm not talking 60 years ago. When
yeah,
I lived in Little Rock, Arkansas, some of the surrounding towns, not even 15, 20 minutes away, they were what they called sundown towns.
yeah,
You knew if you were black, you better not be there when the sun go down.
yep,
You better make sure you're doing 15 miles per hour if the speed limit is 15 miles per hour. If you're doing 17, you might lose your life.
yep,
That was like crazy to me to be actually experiencing that in 2000, not 1948, like,
yeah,
not 1964, but in 2000. So I definitely know what you're talking about. And like you said, that's as crazy as it sounds. I know people from Newark like, man, you must be crazy. No, I really felt safer in the hood than I did in some of the towns down south, because I'm gonna just get robbed in Jersey. I might, you know what I mean, I might get robbed at gunpoint, but I might not necessarily lose my life. You know what
yeah,
I mean? Back then it was all about fighting, and it's gotten out of control now, things of that nature there, but not when it's not even warranted for anything. Like I'm being killed for the color of my skin. That's problematic. We
yeah.
have to do better. We have to do better.
They're just bolder down here. They're very
Mm-hmm.
bold. And they're, so you just have to be aware of your surroundings. Now, Memphis is predominantly a black city.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm right outside of Memphis. So I'm not in the deep hearts of Mississippi where there's, I'm not in that area.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm predominantly with us. Um, I think, that's the other part of that. I know where to live, and um, it's more tolerable if they know that you with it as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not standing for it. You get what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
even though you're as bold as you are, you ought to know that I'm bold as I am too. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
once they sense that from you, that you're not moved or shaken because of that, you don't really have a problem with it.
Yeah.
They're not
Because
going to say anything
even
to
when I
you.
lived in Little Rock, a lot of times we would drive to Memphis to fly out. And that was one of the things that I learned about the South too. That was like totally weird to me. Like, places like Texarkana,
Mhm.
like half of the
One
city
side
is
you
in
on
Texas,
Arkansas, the other
half
side,
is in Arkansas. You
yeah,
got Memphis, Tennessee, but West Memphis is in
Arkansas,
Arkansas.
yeah.
Like, so just learning those different things, like, wow, I thought Memphis was in Tennessee. No, Memphis is in Tennessee. West Memphis is in Arkansas. So
We're the tri-state area. That's where you get the tri-state area. Arkansas, Tennessee, and Mississippi. We all are
mhm,
connected.
yeah. But I was reading I was watching something earlier. October 1st, 1962 is when James Meredith tried to enroll into the University of Mississippi.
Mm,
This is 1962. He's met not by a white clan, the chief of police, the governor of the state of Mississippi. What was I think I wrote his name? Uh, Ross Barnett blocks him from entrance enrollment to the point where President Kennedy had to get involved and say that you cannot block him from enrolling into this school.
hmm
To your point, that's a whole nother level of boldness. We hear the great the I won't call them great, but we hear that phrase all the time, or historical. George Wallace the governor of Alabama at the time. Segregation now, segregation forever. How do you feel about that as far as, because I'm one of those people, I've really been self educating and just studying, gauging my feelings and my level of understanding. Um, so I like to ask other people the same thing, you know, if they ever thought about it or things like that there. But when it comes to segregation, I have mixed emotions because I don't believe that integration should be forced upon you no more than segregation should be forced upon you.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about, like, do you feel like we've benefited from segregation, or would you be more of have more of the pan-Africanism perspective, like you say, give us back the land and let us decide what we want to do here and there?
That's what I feel. It's like, okay, these are your choices. You're either going to work in the field or you're going to work in the house. What's the difference? I'm still under slavery. I'm still under a master ruler. So does it benefit me not to burn out in the sun? Yeah, it benefit me for not burning out in the sun, but I'm still under subjection. I'm still getting treated the same way. I'm just in the house.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand by not having any rights, having some rights or piece of a right was seen would say this better, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because now I wasn't getting any food. Now I'm getting scraps. I was getting crumbs. Now I'm getting a little bit more than crumbs, I'm getting scraps. I'm actually getting the leftover food versus before I wasn't getting anything. I had to catch the crumbs from under the table. So we you know, you asking, it's a two-edged sword. Would I rather get hit in the right or the left?
Yeah.
Would I be willing to say, once again, self-reliance? Give me the option to create my own for me and mine. Give me that option. Don't even give me, because it's not, then that means that you still have power. Allow me to create the life that I have and I want for my family, my community.
I like that.
Because if I'm asking you to give me something, that means that you have it already. And I'm asking, you're going to ask the master for more food? So return the law, return the land, right, with interest that you stole. And then we can come to the table and have a conversation about what could possibly benefit us, for those that are our alliance, for those others that want to act as a liaison, or into not integrating, but wanting to be a part of the solution instead of part of the problem.
Okay. And like I said, I believe that for me, again, I know I'm not saying that if I had to choose between the two, I would be more for segregation, because I'd rather us be over here doing our thing, minding our business, so to speak. But at the same time, I would like to, again, I don't believe that integration should be forced upon us, but I do believe that it should be optional. If we do want to live in a mixed community, we should have the right to do so.
But here's the thing, Marvin, we didn't create that. So we don't have a problem with a neighbor that doesn't look like us. So it's not on us, really. It's really not on us to do anything but to give back for the land to be given back to us, for those rights to be restored back to the rightful owner. Because we're not the ones that have racism within our hearts. We don't operate in that type of love and that type of strength. That's not what we do. It's the ones that's creating that stole that. They need to learn how to. They are the ones that has to get the lessons taught. They need to know what it's like to be integrated and they need to know what that's like. We've been doing what we're supposed to do, and we've been playing our parts, because that's just the people of God, the spirit, the nature that we come from. So for us to always have to be the one to make an adjustment, I'm over that part. I'm over with trying to come up with another solution to make you believe and think or to act as if like this is for us. No, you go and do the work. You go and figure, you need some help. You go get therapy. You need to go do the work. Y'all need to make sure that you are equipped with knowing how to live with someone that doesn't look like you. Go
Mhm.
deal with your ancestry trauma. Go
Mhm.
deal with the reality that has been crossed that you are a part of. You benefited from the murder and the raping of our people and the stolen the land from our people. Why
Mhm.
are we constantly having to make adjustments and try to make you and teach you? I'm not, that's not my responsibility. Our responsibility is to help to influence and teach and empower our people. Go get educated. And if you want to sit in the classroom, by all means, to be educated, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But to constantly for us to have to move and set the marker to make it okay and to make us feel comfortable, no, let them be uncomfortable for once.
Mhm.
I guess you figure that out.
Yeah. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Toshiba said we are all mixed. How do we segregate now? I was speaking more or less of those conditions back then, but to answer your question, I'm not saying that again, I'm not saying that we should be separate. I mean, we should have the option to be separate but equal. But how do we do that? Is the same thing as Miss Cookie said. I can, we It's not about us. It's not about what we have. It's about having the land to do whatever you want to. I believe that when it was first proposed, when slavery was first proposed, when the end of slavery was first proposed, that the whole 40 acres and the mule, which Spike Lee named after his company after and all that there, because we were supposed to be, as the slaves were supposed to be given 40 acres and a mule, and they had designated, I believe, I want to say I got to do some more research on it, and I will have it for next week when Kev have him come back on, because I know that he's a historian and things of that nature there. But I believe that it was either 4 or maybe 5 states that we were supposed to get that for black, specifically for black people. Um, but that never
For
came
American
about.
Indians, Marvin, it's for the American Indians and for the $5 Indians, which were the white folks. So black is not a
Mhm.
nationality. That's why we didn't get the 40 acres of land, because we claimed as being black. And
Mhm.
black and in the dictionary does not represent a race.
Yeah,
So that's the
absolutely.
reason why we can't get the 40 acres of mule, because we keep, instead of us being indigenous land to this people and the indigenous people of the land, we keep claiming as a color, and color does not conclude nationality. And so that
Absolutely.
is the reason why the $5 Indians, the white folks that said they had a drop of Indian blood, were able to get the land and surpass that. Is because they claimed themselves as a Native American, as an Indian, which left us out of it, even though they know that we are the people of the land, because we claimed and allowed ourselves to be called whatever we was being called back then, black,
Mhm.
African Americans,
Negro, yeah.
Negroes, whatever. That's not a nationality. And you cannot claim rights to a land unless you have a nationality. Nationality over supersedes the place of the name of the place that you are in. You get
Gotcha.
what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
until we, first of all, get to education and understand who we are, they're
Mhm.
going to keep playing that in our roles in our head, because they say these Negroes, these African Americans still are, don't know that they are the indigenous to this land. They are the indigenous people. So we're
Mhm.
going to keep saying Black Lives Matter, because we understand the word black is a term, has nothing to do with your nationality. Okay, I just
Gotcha.
wanted to put that out there first.
Yeah, and I do appreciate that. I definitely appreciate that because I think, like you said, that's important for us to educate ourselves on that. There, so I always have a my best friend. He's from Liberia, so I always I have that conversation with other Africans that live over here to me. Like when you talk about African Americans, because we went from, like you said, we went from Negro to colored to black. Now we African Americans, but the Africans that move over to America, they like, no, we're African Americans because we come from Africa. But I believe that I seen something where Malcolm X was talking about that earlier. Oh no, it was actually Muhammad Ali, but he was talking about Chinese. They call themselves Chinese American. With black, like to your point, black doesn't exist. Like we don't know. Half of us don't know where we originated from, other than the motherland. We can't tell you if it's Kenya. We can't tell you if it's Ethiopia. We just know that we were brought over here. We were raised here, but we don't even have. We were stripped of our identity, so to speak.
Well,
Um,
the other key of that is that, Marvin, a lot of us were already here. Yes,
mhm,
there were some of us that come from Africa. There's some of our inheritance and people come from Africa. But they don't want to tell you in the history book is that a lot of us were already here.
Mm-hmm.
So we are indigenous to this land. We were already here before the ships came over. We
Gotcha.
were already here. And that's the part that we don't know because we only go by what they telling us their
Mm-hmm.
history.
Yes.
That's his story. That's not our story.
Mm-hmm.
And the story that in the books are not presented in the school system. You have to go and search for yourself because that is their history. That's not ours. And if the same master, the same man, the same people that have caused you, imprisoned you, do you going to believe their story? Do you going to really believe that they're going to tell you the truth
Mm-hmm.
of who you are? We were already here before they came.
Mm-hmm.
So we're indigenous to the land. We are the Native Americans. We're
Okay.
indigenous to this land already. And not all of us came from over across Africa. And that's the story that they're not telling. And that's as you start uncovering and discovering and knowing thyself and educating yourself, you start realizing, wait a minute, we were already here. There's
Mm-hmm.
proof of that, but it's not in the books that you read.
Mm-hmm.
It's not forefront. It's you're gonna have to really go deep and go and uncover and go in that rabbit hole to see that we actually were here before Christopher Columbus. He described what he saw over here. He didn't
Mm-hmm.
describe white Americans. He described black, dark-skinned people. They were already functioning. Crops. We already had things. We were civilized. There were civilizations already set thousands and years before Christopher Columbus ever discovered so-called Americas.
Mm-hmm.
We were already set.
And they
So
were
what?
over
And
here
then
minding their business.
let's think about it biblically. If you want to see that God said that he set Abraham's seed to go to the northwest, east, south, all across the world. He spread his seeds all across. That right there is telling you the history of us. We were already here, everywhere. We
Mm-hmm.
were here first.
Mm-hmm.
We were in the Europe. We were in Brazil, every four corners of the earth. We were already planted. But that's our history.
Mm-hmm.
But what they teach is their history
Mm-hmm.
so that we can eat and swallow from that so you will not question. You won't have a reason to question that. It's some stuff that I think we should question is you think that they were able to put strong bodied African able people in a ship and go days to go work in a land with no food, no water, diseases, they strapped up together. If that's a product, do you think that it would actually make it when somebody want their money? How would you be able to get that amount of people to go and do a job? How many people do you think actually would survive that?
Yeah.
That's your stock.
Mm-hmm.
So you mean to tell me that the stock that you have, 70, 80% of it is not going to make it to the Americas and you're shipping it over here? Somebody had to been over here already. Now, I'm not saying we didn't come. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying that none of us came,
Yeah.
but it wasn't in the numbers that we was there. It was them.
Mm-hmm.
They were the immigrants. They got kicked out of England. They got kicked out of Scotland. The white people that wasn't considered had enough money and status. They the ones that were shipped over here
Mm-hmm.
to be a servant to the kings and the nobles. See, I don't want to get too deep, but the story has been um, upside down and flipped over.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't
History has
know
been
that, you're only
rewritten.
going to be able to study what's shown in the history books.
Yeah, I've always said that, particularly like when it comes to sports, but it applies to everything. The farther you are removed from a thing, the easier it is to change the history.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I always talk about like when Michael Jordan. When Michael Jordan played, I use him all the time because people talk about Mike. But I remember when Michael Jordan played, it seemed like he averaged 27 points a game. 5 years after he retired, it was up to 28.3.
He's an Aquarius too. I just want to throw that in. Greatness. He's an Aquarius. I just want to let y'all know that the great MJ was also an Aquarius. I'm just saying. Okay.
Now he's up to 33 points a game, you know, because it's so far after he actually played the game. And it's like history changes and it evolves. And I'm not anti-education. My thing has always been, whether you're talking about spiritual, whether you're talking about reading the Bible, whether you're talking about college, whether you're talking about whatever it is, my problem is not that I'm against education. My question has always been, what is it that you're learning and how do you know that is true or factual? To your point, And like you said, we got to educate ourselves. How do you go about obtaining the factual evidence as opposed to what they're force feeding you?
It's not going to be in the mainstream. And it's the our real history is in Bibles and libraries across other countries that's backed up in the back. And you have to be very selective. And once you go down the rabbit hole, it will lead you to where you want to go, but it's not going to be in mainstream. It's not going to be in your face.
Mm-hmm.
They put so much out there for us to grasp. And for those that know. For those that can catch it, will catch it and go from there. So that's that. You want to question everything that you see. Go read it twice. Check the list twice for yourself. Even the word tells you to know in order to know thyself, know thyself first. Don't listen to what I say. Go and check so that you know for yourself, right? Do the history and the research for yourself. Educate yourself in the things of that you want to know in your history. Why would I give you the keys and the answers to the test if I'm the one giving you the test?
Mm-hmm.
I'm in control of you. I'm not going to give you the way to escape and find a self-empowerment and self-reliance, because God forbid, if I tell the giant they're really giants, then they can take control and take over me. Now I don't, even though I had them psychological, they're still waking up. And that's what we're seeing now, that people are starting to wake up spiritually. You've been asleep for a long time. We're starting to ask questions, and the waking up, the rising up, the grand rising. When people say grand rising, the grand rising of that is that you're actually waking up subconsciously. You're waking up from being asleep, from only receiving what you've been told. But once again, when the teacher and the master show up, the teacher realizes that, oh my God, the whole time in the matrix, I was the master. I'm the master of my own story. This is my history. I'm going to go further to find out who I am. But that has to be a internal journey. And I think slowly but surely people are waking up by the masses, asking questions, just asking questions, because 1 + 1 is not equaling 2.
Mm-hmm. I like that. That's a good answer. I like that answer. And to your point, I've said the same thing when when you talk about history. I remember a teacher always getting on me. I think I was in like first grade, and when we first started learning about the Pinta, the Nina, and the Santa Maria, and all that did. And it's like, I remember asking the teacher, I'm like, well, how can Christopher Columbus discover this in first grade? How can Christopher Columbus discover America if it was already people here? Like, how can you discover? Discover means something like
But that
something
is
new.
his story. That's their history. That's their history. He's not wrong for recording his story. That's their history. They did discover for his story,
Yeah.
not our story. He represent them. That's for the Europe. He discovered his story.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a record of his story. That's true. That part is true, but it's not our story.
Yeah.
And that's where we're combining the teachings of his story and not saying, but what's our story?
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Because our story has been purposely hidden from us.
Mm-hmm.
Now the difference would be that would tell you one thing. Why would people that are in power purposely hide or withheld information from us? Why would the pictures, let's get in the Bible, let's get in Christianity. Why would they hide what is portrayed as the portrait of God, when God in himself, in the spirit of Jesus Christ, tell you and describe what he looked like? But in every Baptist and Christian church, we saw a blue-eyed, blonde-haired man. But that was purposely done, though.
Mm-hmm.
But when you start figuring out why were there other books in the Bible taken out?
Exactly.
Why?
Yeah.
Why was the day of church changed from a Sabbath, changed from a Saturday to a Sunday? The Roman Catholic Church. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you purposely showcase this? That is their history. It was already there. Mm-hmm. And if you go over and see Russia and Vladimir Putin, he's exposing. Mm-hmm. They worship. They see there's a Black Mary and Jesus. Everything that they have portrayed to be, we were already that. Mm-hmm. See, they know our history. We don't. Mm-hmm. They know who the true Israelites and who the Hebrew is. They know who we are. They know our nobility. They've taken that and took it and portrayed and to become and to enact how we were moving at that time. That's all. It's just been flipped. Satan comes to what? Steal, kill, and destroy.
Yeah.
So if I can pretend that I'm something that I'm not, they just switched everything over. That's it. But you wouldn't know that by reading his story. What about our story? And now it's starting to come out. It's starting to, our history is starting to be exposed. Even though it's in the Vatican and a lot of our history is locked away, it's slowly but surely you're waking up, grand rising. You're waking up, we're asking questions. Why?
Yeah.
You know, kids are so smart, because when something doesn't look and add up, what do kids do that annoy us? Why? But Daddy, why? But why? But why? Until they end up in school where they are transformed and to behave and to not think and challenged not to think and to conform. They stop asking why. But guess what happens to the kids, especially those that are very bright? They start becoming rebellious in school. They don't want to be there because they themselves know that this is some bull crap.
Right. Yeah,
this something ain't right. It don't make sense. And so what kids do, especially our young Black men, is they detach themselves because they know this something in them, this ain't right. They question stuff. And so you see that. So just because that kid wasn't great in school does not mean that kid wasn't smart. He asked questions and it didn't make sense. And the teachers did not have the answers because they were only taught by the same institution that was also enslaving us. So, I don't want to get too deep. Let me stop.
Nah.
But I do a lot of history. I read. I do a lot of reading as well because I'm always searching to find answers to the questions that I have.
And that's a beautiful thing. And I think that's, I won't say it like, not to say I'm misogynist, but even as a man, I've always said that that's a big difference between girls, even though I don't have any daughters of my own. That's a big difference between girls and boys. Like I've always, whenever I've seen my friends that have little girls or my nieces around, I could talk to my nephew. To your point, my niece, especially when she was younger. But Uncle Boo Boo, why? Uncle Boo Boo, why? Well, why is the car black? And why like do y'all ever stop asking questions?
She just like to talk. You got to explain to us and break it down because we like to talk. That's our way to stay engaged. And I know men say, oh my gosh, he talk all the time. What he talk about? But that's the only way that we know how to stay present with you. We want an engagement. We want an attachment. We want that to continue to remain the same. We don't want that to die out. But that's something that people have to understand is that when you stop asking why, then you start becoming a part of the system. And that's what they don't want free thinkers. In schools, unfortunately, unless you're training and raising your kids outside of the system and they're not in traditional schools, you're teaching them, it's being taught them how not to be free thinkers and for them to conform into the realities of what society says they should do. But so if you ever can keep your children at that young creative age and that mind to still be able to free think and ask questions and find the answers to the questions and keep going, you have a very powerful young man and young woman. And it behooves us as adults that once we start educating ourselves and get away from tradition, but once we start educating ourselves on the whys and the things that we don't know of, then we can begin to understand this is how we can empower our community now. Because now we have knowledge of self. This is how we can do this because now we're not conformed to what society has deemed for us to say, this is what a man should look like. This is how a woman should look like. This is how you should think. You're a free thinker. And it's going to cost you being a free thinker. And that's that part of going back to leadership. A leader serves first. A leader is of service. So Malcolm was of service. Your pastor, your bishop was of service. By him fixing the chairs was him showing his of service to the people. That's what great leaders come for first. They are there of service first, not to be serviced. And so when you see when you see these, TV gurus, pastors and stuff, they are looking to be of service. They want you to serve them. And that's how you can separate those that came and those that were sent, because the men and the women that were sent are looking to be of service. They're not looking to be serviced. They're not looking for you. They want you to serve them versus them being of service to them. So that's how we can tell the fake from the foes. who is looking to be of service
Yeah.
to the people. Those are great leaders. They knew and can delegate, and they saw your strengths, they saw your weaknesses. They say, this is the position I want you to be in because I see how great you are in this, and this is your spot. I want this, I'm gonna delegate this job for you because you're very good at that. And this job, you know what I'm saying? To be of service.
Yeah.
So
It's funny that you would even say that or go there, because me personally, that's one thing that I've always said, like with it, as it relates to churches, I will always run from people that say they want to be a preacher or they want to be a pastor. Because 9 times out of 10, I would almost go as far as say 10 times out of 10, the one that's really called, they don't want it.
they've been running for it from a very long time.
Exactly. So
Like, no, I ain't ready
especially when it
yet.
comes to spirituality, I'm so leery of people. Oh, you know what? I want to be a preacher, and I want to be, because then it goes to, what are your motives? Why do you want to be a preacher? Because do you just want the title? Do you understand what it takes to go through all that there? And you look at it, and like you said, to prove it, if you look in the Bible, all the main characters in the Bible, they were initially running from who they were called to be.
Jesus himself was of service to the people. They wasn't,
Yes.
and even when they tried to worship him, he would tell them, no, I'll come in the name of my Father. No, no, I'm an example.
Yeah.
No, don't worship me. You worship my Father. You get what I'm saying? He was of service to the people that didn't look like the ones that was in the church around the corner doing all this extra stuff, being all extravagant. He was away from that. You know what I'm saying? He was out to serve the people. So if you follow and want to be Christ-like, then you have to come out of the church and go and serve the community, serve the people. There's no way that churches should be that huge and that which we now know is a business, but the community around the church is still poor. Something is not right with that. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. It doesn't take a political person, one way or the other, to see that churches are businesses now. And the serving of the community is not the forefront of it, because there's no way that this huge building that creates billions of dollars, and he has jets and planes and all that, but the people around the community are still poor. Something is wrong with that.
Yes, absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly. And I do believe, like you said, in the era of big business when it comes to churches, I believe that that's one of the disservices that the church do, specifically the black churches. We've lost the sense of outreach ministry. Like, it's not about just the 4 walls and what goes on in these 4 walls, like you say. What about the projects that's across the street or down the street, or whatever the case may be? We don't want to see storefront churches like we used to, that's in the hood. We want to go out to where we could be on acres and acres of land. And
but you know why though, Marvin? You know, because church is a business now. You see, when you sign their papers and you want to get these millions of dollars from your state, there are certain bylaws and rules that you must comply.
Absolutely.
And it's not to help the people. It is to benefit the church and the agenda. And you know, it's sad to say that it has become that, but that's the reason why God is raising apostles and prophetess and people like that look like you and I, to get the word out, to continue it, because it's not about what we don't come looking like what they think we should. He's given that time and that era has come and gone now. He's raising people like you and I to get the word out, to rebuild the church, right? To find out, let's be a service of the people, because church in itself is what's inside of you. It's not inside of a building. And so you are a walking, living, breathing example of God, like a Christ, like a whoever you call God. You should be an example. There should be a DNA, some residue that you don't have to say, I am a pastor, I'm a prophetess, because the way that you live, the way that you move, the way that you speak, there should be something that separates you from everybody else. And then the people will say there's something about them that makes them different. You must be a pastor. You must be an activist, because there's something, the way that you say, I picked up something different about you. And so that is why now you're seeing those that's been in jail and prison, and, you know, those that have been through a lot. Now we understand why you had to go through so much. And those are the chosen ones. And that's even though you may call yourself a chosen one, do you know what comes with that? That comes with that. It's a hefty price to pay to be chosen.
Yeah.
Because you still have to go, despite the thorn in your side. You still have to go, even if you got to leave your family, you still have to go to lay your life on the line. You still saying, God, still send me. I'll go. I'll say what you have me to say. I would do what you have me to do. I'm still willing to go, even if I have to leave the people that I love behind me. I'm still willing to go. That's discipleship, because now you're understanding the walk, and the purpose is bigger than the pain. My purpose is always bigger than the pain. Your purpose has to be bigger than the pain. Your purpose has to be bigger than the pain.
Absolutely.
And when you have an alignment, when you come in agreement with that, that's when you start walking. That's when he send people to your life. That's when you start making moves. That's when, but guess what? Guess what comes with that? A lot of torture, a lot of discomfort, a lot of lonely days comes with that. You know, you might be ostracized. There's a lot that comes with that. No different than Malcolm, because even though he was assassinated physically, his spirit still lives on.
Yeah.
And I think there's going to be a time that's coming soon where the spirit of Malcolm X, they just haven't discovered that because he's being hidden. I believe God is hiding him or her, the spirits of Malcolm X, of the prolific leaders, to a time where it is needed. And that is the reason why it's been 59 years and we haven't had anyone yet to even compare themselves to that. That's why, because at a certain point in time, the right place, I believe that they would be come forth.
It's scary how in sync I'll be with your thinking so many times. I remember when I had first got involved with ministry, and I don't think I've ever shared this publicly on the show, but I remember when I first started learning how to pray in the spirit. I remember the Holy Spirit would always have me in my prayer with one simple phrase before I would say amen. And it was, Lord, help me to be the one. And even though I would pray that, and it was led of the Spirit for me to add that to the end of my prayer, for many, many years, I didn't understand what it meant. Help me to be the one. Help me to be the one. And one day, years later, I was just sitting and I was talking to God, and I said, God, why would you have me? Why would you put it in my spirit to add that to my prayer? And it was almost like spirituality is a beautiful thing to me, right? Because it's almost like the Matrix. You know, the scene where I always tell people the Matrix is one of the most spiritual movies ever created, whether people believe it or not. You know, you got the red pill, you got the blue pill. Do you want to stay asleep or do you want to wake up, so to speak? But it was funny how when they would plug them in, you didn't have to read no manual. You didn't have to learn anything. It was just like that. And I remember when specifically asking God, well, why would you have me add on to the end of my prayer, help me to be the one? I was first drawn to Martin Luther King. I was first drawn to, had these visions of Malcolm X, Gandhi, Marcus Garvey that you talked about earlier. And it was like, wow, that's crazy. I don't want that. Because just think about the hundreds of thousands of people that showed up on the March of Washington. Where is their trophy at? They were there too, but it is different when you're the face of a thing, when you are the one, when you're the leader. And I'm getting chills just even thinking about it. But it was like the writer of the Matrix speaks to that and how it is, and an allegory of the Bible. Yeah, I've seen an allegory of the Bible. I've seen her talk about that as well. And she is an African American woman.
Yes.
we can't leave that out as well. Going back to learning the history and all that there.
Creative source. Yep.
But I think that is beautiful the way that you worded it, because I do believe that God is aligning of people. We talked about it before we came on camera, but you asked it a little while ago, how long has it been since we've had a leader, so to speak, since we've had somebody pick up the mantle, since Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, you know what I mean, all these different figures. And I do believe that God is stirring up that gift, like you say, hiding away for, as the Bible says, for such a time as this.
Because we know spirit transforms. Spirit does not die. Spirits don't die. They transform from one to another. So
Mm-hmm.
with that to say that even though they have gone on, their spirit remains here. And so there are some bodies that
Mm-hmm.
are housed in their spirit, but they have yet to be revealed. It would be how, they're searching. I think they're searching for the one. They're searching for those ones that have yet to come forth. And I think that's the reason why there's a frantic on their end, because they know it's coming. And we
Mm-hmm.
all feel it. We feel something. Is something is brewing up.
It's
Can't
something
really
in the air.
describe it. I don't really know what it is, God, but spiritually, and we are spiritual beings first, having a human
Mm-hmm.
experience. So
Yeah.
because of that, we feel nature, we feel the spirit of God, we feel like something is brewing. Something is going on, because what goes what in heaven, as it is in heaven, it is on earth. So if the war is going on in the heavens,
Mm-hmm.
then it's gonna trickle down here on earth, and we feel that first, because we
Mm-hmm.
are spirit first, right? We're spirits first, having a human experience.
Yeah.
So that is why collectively now we're waking up.
Mm-hmm.
We're asking why. We're doing the research. Stuff is coming out. We're finding it. We're going through it. We're trying to figure out what that's not adding up. Why? Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why? What? Did you find this out? Check. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's going to take a collective of us to fight this thing spiritually first, in the spiritual realm, which is where we know that that's where our power and our strength lies, in the spiritual realm. And so do they know that the only way that they can be defeated, what they have already been defeated, it was in the spiritual realm first.
Mm-hmm. I think first of all, before we get ready to wrap up, I want to publicly thank you, right, to that vein, and it's not a form of self righteousness or anything like that. They're trying to get no pat on the back, but the reason I say I want to thank you is because even listening to you, I thank you, because everybody doesn't answer the leading of the Most High or the Spirit that what we led to do. I would have never came across you or met you at such a time as this if you wasn't obedient to doing your TikTok.
Hmm.
I've been hearing about TikTok forever. I don't care about no TikTok. I'm not getting on TikTok.
Hmm.
November, I get on TikTok. I'm going through the different things, and I think my second day on TikTok, okay, what's this little thing here? Okay, so this different than somebody posted something. This is live. Okay. Um, well, let me see what somebody says is live. Let me see what they talking about.
Hmm.
But God knew,
Alignment.
and dude, the data, but even before I was born, on this particular day in history, okay, now I'm going to line the two of them. And
Yeah.
it's like, it's important to be obedient to our leading. So I not that you need it, but I encourage you and I want to thank you. Keep on doing what you're doing. We're going to keep on speaking that syndicate host into the atmosphere. We're going to speak that
Absolutely.
thing into existence, because,
Absolutely.
like you say, we
Thank
are
you.
the masters of our fate. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Especially when they are hey, what's good too? Especially when they're divinely given to us.
Hmm.
This is you didn't just wake up one morning and say, you know what, I'm gonna get on TikTok and I'm gonna just throw my hair around and just show people how. No, you know what? I got a story to tell. You know
He
what I mean?
told me to go get the fish. He told
There
me
you
to go get the fish.
go. Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about what to say. I need you to go get the fish. Go get my people.
Yeah, I
It
like
didn't
that.
make sense to me. Well, how? God, what do you want? Like, what you want me to, like, how? Go get the people. You bring them in. And I'll tell you and get you what you got to bring them in first. And I know how to bring you in. I know how to get you. We also know how that's ran, but I appreciate that. I take my flowers while I'm alive. I'm gonna wait
Mm-hmm.
till I'm gone. Talk about me.
Exactly.
Give
I'm
me my
gonna give
flowers
and I'm
now.
gonna give them to you, girl. You did a live earlier today that I had tuned in before I got ready to nap and get ready for the night. But you were talking about something that I said I wanted to bring up. And you got kind of started talking about God. And I'm trying to think. I think I did I write it down? Yeah, I texted them myself, so I wouldn't forget. Let me pull my text up real quick. Says Miss Cookie, how crazy is that God has to prove himself to us, but we don't have to prove ourselves to him. I want to hear your take on that a little bit more. I want my viewers to hear this here. Like, that's crazy to me because, like you said, We don't have to prove ourselves to God, but he has to prove himself to us. If that ain't backwards, I don't know what is.
The audacity that we have been given a new day, a new chance, a new opportunity to get it right. When I say get it right, to get in alignment with the purpose and the will. And every time when things go wrong and it doesn't go our way in the way that we think it should go, we go crying and complaining to God of why he did and what this, and God, why did you do this? And God, why did you do this? And why not me? And why not me? The audacity that he has proven and shown you numerous of times when you go look in your life that he didn't allow what should have happened to you. He allowed grace and mercy to cover you. So you mean to tell me the times, a few times now, that you don't get what you want, that you feel like you deserve? Now your faith is real. You want to ask God, why? Why me? The audacity. God has been faithful. He has been faithful. He is constantly trying to show us and give us and say, yea, though that you may have this thorn in your side, son and daughter, I've still been faithful to you. I still covered you. Yes, you're going to be hurt and you may have to go through some cuts and get ripped up. But my God, I kept you. I kept you from being killed. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I kept you away from that, from things that I should have allowed. If I wasn't a graceful and merciful God, I should have turned my back when you were outside the will. But I didn't. So thank God he remains committed and faithful to us. That his love is so overbearing and over loving, and he's so a God of righteousness, and say, I'm not going to hold you accountable at that time, even when we're out of the will, even when we hard-headed. He still doesn't allow and give us grace, even when we deserve it. So the few times that he popped us on the butt and punishes us, we got the audacity to complain and cry and whine and say, God, why me? The audacity that we have, that you telling this all serving God that you call, that you serve, that you say that you love, you're questioning him. That he has to do what you say. He has to remain faithful to you, but you don't have to show any type of faithfulness to him.
And I thought that was so profound when you were talking about it earlier, because one of the things that I've always said, and I still say it to this day and live by it, is, and you shared it before, but you can get into it. And that's why I said again, thank you for being obedient to the leading of the Most High. Because one of the things that I realized many years ago is, you talked about earlier about distractions. The devil only goes after who's a threat to his kingdom. Usually when you're minding your business and you focus on everything else, you ain't gonna get nothing. But the minute you say, you know what, God, what is your word, using your word, what is my purpose? What is your will for my life? You talked about your incident where you had to learn how to walk again, talk again, all those different things there. Like you said, you're gonna go through some things when you pick up that mantle. But I always encourage people, listen, one thing about it, if you're truly being led by the Most High, you are not going through it alone.
Yeah, that part.
No matter how it may feel. And you said it's something earlier that I've always said. Guess what? Marvin doesn't have to understand it. It doesn't have to make sense to me if you telling me that this is what needs to be done, God. Because what is that? That's the definition and the epitome of what faith is. According to Hebrews 11:1, it says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. It's easy to believe in something that you can't see. It's easy to believe that you could dunk the basketball if you dunked before.
Yep.
But when you believe in something that you can't actually see or obtain and say, you know what, we're going to bring this into fruition. That's a different level of faith. That's a different level of obedience. And like you say, sometimes you're gonna cry some tears. Why me, Lord? You know what I mean? And I learned years ago, instead of asking God why, I think you in spite of. I
Mhm.
like to have that Job mentality. You chose me for a reason. So even though I might have to go through a divorce, yet will I trust you.
Paul said, I learned how to be content.
Exactly.
Even with this thorn in my side, I'm still learning. That does not mean because whatever you consider yourself, a Christian, a follower of faith, whatever it is that you consider yourself to be called, that does not mean that you are not going to go through it. I think people think that because you say that you're a Christian or
Exactly.
you're a pastor or you're a bishop or whatever, that somehow that covers you from going through life experience and challenges. Like that does not mean that you don't still go through and you're still going to bleed and you're
That's the
still going
fairy
to get
tale.
cuts and bruises and you're going to have to still experience what it is to be hurt and harmed, and but you're not going to die. He's
Mm-hmm.
not going to allow you to not be here in the midst of you going and it or if that is his will, then you signed up for that. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying you're still going to have to go through it. It's not peaches and cream and you're running through the fields and oh my God, it's heaven and then flowers and blooming. No, it's quite opposite.
Mm-hmm.
But we say we go through it despite it. Though
Mm-hmm.
that I have this thorn in my side, I'm still willing to say, God, send me, I'll go. Though that I can't see and I got this scar on my eye, I'm still saying, God, I still trust you. Though
Mm-hmm.
that I walking through the shadow of the valley of death, I still fear no evil. I'm still saying, God, I still trust you. With your rod and your staff, I know that's protecting me. I'm still willing to go. I'm
Mm-hmm.
still willing to go. Even I'm in the lion's den, I'm still willing to go. I'm still saying yes. Even when I'm approached with the enemies, it's only me. I'm still saying yes. I'm still willing to go to war. I'm still willing, hurt, tired, disappointed, without a relationship, without the people that I thought that would go with me, if I have to go by myself, I'm still willing to say go. I'm still
Mm-hmm.
moving. I'm still saying yes. Send me, I'll go.
I like it. I love it. Hey, what's good, Big Five? Yeah, man. This has been good. I'm actually pumped up. I like the energy, and I like when I feel refreshed, or when I talk about spiritual things and different things of that nature there, because I believe that is important for all of us to get there in our own time, in our own way, individually.
Hmm.
Because, you know, once we get there, then we're going to start to see some of these things that we talked about earlier manifested in this realm here. You know what I mean? Even if we don't see it in this lifetime, like you say, the spirit is eternity. I had that conversation with people all the time too. If you truly believe that, then when you die, the same way your spirit is still there. Where if that's the case, if the spirit is in eternity, where were we at before we were born into or brought into this level of reality? We had to be somewhere.
Hmm.
We had to be somewhere before we came into this realm and this level of existence and a level of knowledge. So this has always been my mentality. If I know, or this is the way I describe the love of God for us. This is how much God loves us, in my personal opinion. You had no choice in what was going to be the color of your skin, how tall you were going to be,
Hmm.
who was going to be your mother, father, how many siblings you were going to have, whether you were going to be born in Switzerland, whether you were going to be born in this corner of the world. You had no choice in any of that. But he loves us so much that he says, you know what? I don't want you to serve me. I don't want you to come to me because I made you come to me. I want you to come to me because that's what you genuinely want to do.
Hmm.
That's the definition of free will. And I believe that until we all individually go back to the point where you say, you know what, I had no choice in none of those things there. So it's best for me, instead of me trying to figure it out, keep bumping my head up against the wall, why not go to the source that put me here to find out what it is that I'm supposed to be doing?
What if I give you another perspective and saying, what if we did sign up while we were in the spirit with God and we signed up to be with the parents? And what
There
if we
you go.
signed up for the mission with with the ability to say, the charge is for you to make it back. But
There
your
you
free
go.
will says that even if that I can't force you to find your way back because you don't have remembrance. When you go
Mhm.
into the earth realm, you're not going to have remembrance of
Of this
this
conversation.
conversation.
Yep.
You're
Yep.
not going to know. I'm putting the purpose inside of you. You have to go internally to find that, and through life changes and events, hopefully you'll find your way back to me, to us,
Mhm.
to surface, to universe, to God. But there's a free will and choice that some
Mhm.
may come down and may not make it back.
Mhm.
And I believe this is a different perspective. What if that's the free will that he gives, that we actually did pick our parents? We actually did pick the place and the people because we understand that that's our next assignment. And we was sent, we volunteered to go and to experience life in this realm.
Mhm.
What if Earth is a school? What if that we actually did volunteer? We just don't have a remembrance. So for us to go back to have a remembrance, to have a grand awakening and a rising, to say, oh, something inside of you is challenging you to become better. Where do you get that from? What
Mhm.
if you go back and we find out that this was all a part of the plan? What if?
I like that perspective too, and I thank you for that because I've always said that. Me personally, I do believe that. I do believe that part of this life's journey, so to speak, is for us to find our way back to where we initially came from. Like I just said, I believe that that's part of. It's just what we're living and experiences is just part of the process. But I believe that the main goal at the end of the day is to find our way back to where we once first came from.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like you said again, if the spirit is eternity, right? Where were we at before? Before we were born in America,
Because he said
in
he knew us before we was in the womb, in
in
our
the
mother's
mother.
womb. So if he
Exactly.
knew us before, he didn't say while and during. He said, I knew you before, not while and during. He said, I knew you before you were in your mother's womb. That means we had to have had a conversation with, with the Most High about what it is that the purpose and the plan is over this life that we're choosing to go into. Because he said he knew me. He knew you before you were in your mother's womb.
Absolutely.
That ain't what I said. That's what the word said. You got to argue with me. I'm just saying what's already been said. Ain't what Cookie's saying. It's what I believe. But you ain't got to argue with me. Hey, I'm just the messenger.
Mm-hmm. It's like the new memes out there now. Don't argue with me. Argue with your mama.
Right. Try Jesus. Don't try me.
Yeah, no, I didn't make it up. Good points, girl. Girl, like I said, man, we're gonna get out of here so you can enjoy the rest of your evening. But as usual, I so thank you very much for taking out the time to do this here. Every conversation we have is always a good conversation. Um, did you have anything that you wanted to share with the people before we get out of here?
No, I just want to say once again, it has always been conversation that is of the gods, of God talk. I say God talk because when you're led by the Most High, it doesn't matter what state, city, your title. Once spirits are led by spirit, we have a congregation. We can align and have a communication. We can talk about similar things, and that's prolific for me. So I want to say once again, I appreciate you for having me on. Every time I come on, we have a good time, and
Mm-hmm.
thanks for having me. And until then, and the next time, whenever you want me on, I'm always will tune in. So thank you guys for receiving me once again.
I appreciate you. And again, for if you're not already on TikTok, get on TikTok and follow her on TikTok. That's MZCOOKEEZ2.
It's
Miss
cookies
Cookies
too.
to you. And like I said, on Tuesday nights, we normally do our show on Tuesday night. But as soon as we get off the air, what I normally do is as soon as I finish and hit in, I jump over to Grown Folks Boulevard, GFB for short for us that's a part of the community. Grown Folks Boulevard, that's on TikTok from 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to midnight every Tuesday night where
He
we
be
have
tired
deep.
every Wednesday night. He be tired going to work every Wednesday night because we have him outside.
Yeah, they done kicked me out a couple of nights. Like, boy, you got to go to bed. But we have a good time, good vibes. And then every once in a while, once you follow her on TikTok, you'll see when she do different lives throughout the day, throughout the night, whenever the Lord leads her to do so. Which, like I said, I quoted some of it earlier. So it's just a blessing. And I thank God for adding you to a part of the equation and a part of my life. So I really thank him, and I thank you for, like I said again earlier, for being obedient to that leading. Again, follow her. We'll see you guys next Tuesday night. We're going to have our residential doctor back on, Kevin Danley. It's been a while since Kev been on. So next Tuesday night, we'll be on there. We're going to close out the Black History Month with Kev on the show. We're going to talk about different things there. We'll probably get into, being that he's in the military and everything else, probably get into a little bit of this whole Iran-Israel war going on and different things of that nature there as well. But I'm looking forward to having that conversation and chopping it up with my brother. Ms. Cookies, I hope you have a good evening. I hope thank all of you for tuning in. If you haven't already subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so. And as usual, when I'm signing off, DeAndre and Elisha, know that Daddy loves you intentionally, but I also love you unconditionally. Till next week, peace.